What's good, all my fellow savages? Welcome back or to my channel. It's your boy Self-Aware Savage, and here we don't keep anything surface level. We go into the deep intricacies of the mind so that way you can understand how your decision making impacts your life. All right, so if that sounds good to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I drop 2 videos a week along with like 3 shorts, so you always gonna be getting content daily to help you improve with your life. All right, so for today's topic, and honestly, yo, this is a really big one for me because I think it's really important to cover this now, especially as more and more people have been joining this journey, and it is the toxic side of self-awareness, okay? Because I know it's always pushed how important it is for you to continually grow and continually improve, but I need to tell y'all about the downsides that are naturally just gonna happen as you are progressing in this world, all right? So let's get right into it. Now, one of the first toxic sides to self-awareness that a lot of us are gonna fall victim to, I know I did in the very beginning, is the danger of the single success formula. Now, here's what it is. So when I first got started on improving my life and getting better, I used to wake up at 5 a.m. I ate a certain way. I used to show up on time a certain way. I dressed a certain way. I looked a certain way. And other people started noticing my life changing, okay? So they would come to me for advice like, yo, I keep seeing you talking about all these things you want to improve and all these things you want to be. Like, can you help us out? Can you give us some game? So me, naturally, I'm like, yeah, so this is what you got to do. You got to wake up at 5 a.m. You got to eat this meal. You got to work out like this. You got to dress like this, right? And I was coming from a really good place, but then when the people would come back to me and say, hey, I'm trying that, it's not working for me, my response would be, man, it's just because you're not doing it right. So you gotta wake up at 5 a.m. and you get my point. So because you start to see success within your life and you definitely wanna see it for other people, you try to share your formula with them, but you don't recognize that all of us are completely different people and that the way that you are finding success, they just might not find success that same way. And so to overcome this factor of self-awareness is just recognizing like, hey, this is what I did. Here is my formula. But you may have to go figure out something for yourself, because whether you wake up at 5 a.m. or whether you wake up at 10 a.m. does not change how successful you're gonna be, because the person who wakes up at 10 a.m. can stay up till 3 a.m. working towards their dream life, while the person like me that wakes up at 4:30 goes to sleep at 10 p.m. because I wanna reset my day. But we still can have success in those hours. And so just remember that there is no one solution for everybody. The second toxic side to self-awareness is ignoring your personal weaknesses, okay? Now, this one is very hard to acknowledge because the smarter you get, the more your brain will start to configure and be able to articulate things in a way that makes so much sense to you that you just can't even see any flaws that you have anymore. And I definitely fell victim to this. It was so long that took me to get over certain vices or certain habits because I had 100 different reasons as to why it made sense. And even when I explained it to other people, they're like, oh, that do make sense. I see exactly why you do that. But I was really just tricking myself, okay? And so the way to overcome this is the old cliche, but it is so real. New levels, new devils, okay? What that means is, as you all are traveling on this road of self-awareness, you're gonna run into circumstances that you have not experienced before. And so you have to recognize that the current state of being you have may not be enough to overcome that devil at the level you're currently at. So there are gonna be some things about your identity and your habits that you're gonna have to change to overcome that devil so you can make it to the next level. And it's gonna be like that as you continually go through life. I mean, I've been on this journey for 10 plus years. And yo, I am at a place now that I never even foresaw, but I literally just grew to this level about a month ago, right? And I don't even know what that next level looks like for me, but I'm excited to get there. And I recognize there's even more things about myself I'm gonna have to evolve on to break through. And so just always remember that cliche as you're going along, to acknowledge that the identity you have today is not gonna get you to where you wanna be in the future. The third toxic side to self-awareness is resisting external input, okay? Now, this one I definitely fell victim to, because what happens is as you all start to grow and as you start to learn and as you start to love yourself more and you become more self-aware of your decisions, you will realize how many other people in the world aren't self-aware, right? I mean, I made it on my intro video on my page, my ultimate guide to self-awareness. that 66% of people don't have common sense. So now you are gonna move into that 34% of people on the planet that have it. And so you start to think you are better than other people. And with that, you stop listening to their advice because you're thinking to yourself, how exactly can I learn from you? You don't even love yourself. You aren't even aware of the decision making you do that has put your life here. You aren't even willing to be accountable for your actions, right? And you get really judgmental. The way to combat this is to recognize you are always learning and growing as a person. And because of that, you can always learn from other people no matter where they're at in life. If they are a negative Nancy that always wants to invite you to pity parties, you can pay attention to say like, I definitely wouldn't want to have those habits because clearly that does not put their life anywhere near where they want to be. Or it could be on the opposite spectrum where someone's always super positive, super confident, and really successful. And you can sit back and say, this person I definitely want to continually learn from or hear from because they clearly are in a place mentally where I want to be in the future, right? So there should never be a time where you feel like you've reached a point that you can't learn from nobody else. The fourth toxic side to self-awareness is neglecting your friendships and communities, okay? Now, I definitely fell victim to this because as you start to change and as you start to grow and as you become more self-aware, you start to be like, well, I operate by this standard of living, and if you don't meet me here, then I don't even want you affiliated in my life. And while I understand and comprehend the selfishness there is a component of it where it is your standard of life and no one else around you needs to change for you to be successful. I am not saying that if everyone around you is negative, that is in your family and your community, you should keep them. But what I am saying is that you have to give them the opportunity to change as well. As you are gaining knowledge, you have to be willing to share that with them. And that is something that I did not do a good job of doing. I was definitely just changing and growing on my own. And then when people weren't meeting that standard or when they were still bringing negative energy into my life, I would just shun them out completely. But the best way I've learned to combat this, right, is don't get me wrong. If you are completely just an associate, all right, I'll probably stop speaking to you if like you bring in too much negative juju into my life. But I could have someone like my mother who she isn't on the same level of self-awareness as me, but I love her to death. And she does sometimes, you know, just want to complain a bit, right? And so what we have is time frames. And so let's say she wants to call me to just complain for a bit. I'll be like, all right, you got 15 minutes. And like, she knows it and I know it. So for 15 minutes, she could go ahead and complain. I'll egg her on, I'll hype her up and everything. But when that time frame is done, it's over because I need to now center back my energy to be able to think about, okay, let's figure out solutions for your issues. And also I want to be able to push my life forward in a certain direction and I just can't have certain energies hitting me. And so that works for me. And I would definitely tell you all to figure out a solution for your community when you get to that place, because you just don't want to cut everybody off, because you equally just don't want to be isolated, because as humans, we do want connection. The fifth and last toxic side to self-awareness is burnout and lack of authenticity. So for the burnout portion, you just always are trying to look for a way to improve, right? You always need to find a new book, you need to find a new podcast, you need to always express to someone, what have you learned or done this week? And it could just get really tiring and exhausting. And the way I've learned to combat this is like someone would come to me and be like, oh, I just read 10 books this week. I don't read 10 books a week, okay? What I like to do when I read a book is I'll read one chapter, especially when it's self-awareness, and then I will implement that chapter into my life, okay? I'll experiment with it. If I like it, then I keep it. But if I don't, then I let it go, and then I finally get to the next chapter. Sometimes it takes me a month to finish one book, and I am perfectly okay with that. So don't try to always look for a way that you just need to grow every single day. The goal is that you are consuming information and like seeing how it applies to your life and making sure that it abides by your own standard. And now for the second one, the loss of authenticity. When you are consuming all this information and you are changing so quickly and you're evolving as a person, you could definitely become like a book. And now you're just living based on all these scriptures and all these quotes, but you actually don't even remember what your values are anymore. The way I've learned to combat this is to just make sure I'm always staying true to myself. I don't need to always sound like a philosopher. I can crack stupid jokes with my friends. I can speak in certain lingos and different things like that, and it doesn't make me less than. Now, do I find myself always cursing or, you know, talking derogatory. No, that's never gonna change, but I can still just be chill sometimes. And so in conclusion, y'all, self-awareness is an amazing journey to go on, but just understand that it does have layers to it that you're gonna have to combat on this journey to make sure that you stay authentically you. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, comment your thoughts. Are you on this journey? Have you ran into any other toxic things or the same things I'm talking about now? I'd love to hear about it, man. Don't forget to hit that like button. You already know it helps the algorithm, and I will see everybody at the top.